want to start this off by saying I hope everyone had a great 2023, filled with fun and memorable moments. I know it was a fantastic year for the gaming industry as a whole, as it's continued to bounce back from the dark ages of 2020. We all know that 2023 was packed with so many amazing games, but today I want to look ahead into 2024 and just list out my personal top 10 games that I'm excited for this year. So without wasting any of our time, let's get right into it. Starting off with number 10 is Skull and Bones. Ubisoft has been dropping absolute stinkers for years, to be honest. Games like Watch Dogs Legion, Far Cry 6, AC Valhalla took Ubisoft's open world formula and monetized the shit out of it. And honestly, it didn't really do much to improve on it. I'm just saying this is the first time I've been relatively excited for some Ubisoft titles. I'm really hoping they don't mess up with Skull and Bones because it looks like a really fun game. The game is essentially an open world pirate game focusing on naval combat. If you've ever played Assassin's Creed 4, you can see how similar the naval combat looks. The game of course focuses on being a captain of your own pirate ship. You can complete different contracts, plunder other ships, and raid fortresses. The end goal is to just become the most infamous pirate sailing the seven seas, and honestly, that's a good enough premise for me. The game's co-op too, so you can play the entire game with friends, which is cool, but there's also no PvP, so it's not really like Sea of Thieves where you can just get raided by other players. I can see the lack of PvP being kind of a bummer, but on the bright side, at least you won't get griefed. At the same time though, I think that's what makes Sea of Thieves so much fun for me. These are pirate games after all. Plunder or be plundered is how it should be. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how those games compare when Skull and Bones launches on February 16th. Next, at number 9, I have Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. This game is being made by Rocksteady, who's the same studio behind the Arkham games. I recently played through all of them last year and it was an amazing experience, so I'm really excited for their next game. Now, there was some controversy about this game being a live service type game akin to the Avengers game, so hopefully that doesn't ruin the game entirely. The premise is pretty simple if you somewhat understand the DC universe. You can play as either Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, or King Shark. You're tasked by Amanda Waller to stop Brainiac's alien invasion and kill members of the Justice League who've been brainwashed. Now, from what I've seen of the story, it looks like it has that classic dark comedy the Suicide Squad are known for, which is great. It's also the last portrayal of Batman we'll ever hear from Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace. While the graphics look amazing, all of the characters seem to rely on the use of guns, and from what I've seen, there's not a lot that differentiates them from each other. But yeah, hopefully I'm proven wrong and this game is dope. Number 8 is a weird one. I have Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Look, I didn't even know they were still making these games. Well, the last game was released in 2010, but I distinctly remember playing the older games as a kid. It's basically an action-adventure platformer kind of game that takes place in ancient Persia. I just remember the locations and art style of this game being absolutely amazing. The new game, though, is a 2D Metroidvania style game, and it looks absolutely beautiful. It's coming out next week, so I guess we'll get to see how good it is soon. At number 7, I have South Park Snow Day, yet another Ubisoft game that looks promising. This might be a comeback year for them. Honestly, I didn't think it would be possible after they hit rock bottom when they announced NFTs would be in their games. Hopefully, they realized how dumb that is. The older 2D South Park games, Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole, nice, were some of my favorite RPG games at the time, with a lot of thought-out gameplay elements. The story and dialogue was written and voiced by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, which pretty much made the game feel like one long South Park episode. It was amazing. I know their comedy might not be for everyone, but I personally love it. South Park Snow Day takes a different approach by being a 3D co-op game. It'll be real-time action now, and it looks a lot like a hack-and-slash action game, which is kinda cool. But I'll be honest, I'm playing this game because it's South Park. That's pretty much all the reason I need. The next game is one that's very near and dear to my heart. It's the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. When Nintendo announced this, my jaw dropped through the floor. I was beyond excited. The original Thousand Year Door was the first RPG I ever played. It was the first and last time I saw this kind of world building in a Mario game, and I'm glad Nintendo cares enough to remake it. At number 5, I have Hades 2. Hades 1 was the first roguelike to have truly hooked me since The Binding of Isaac. The original followed Zagreus, the son of Hades and prince of the underworld, as he repeatedly tries to escape the realm his father has trapped him in. It's a roguelite, so every time you make your escape run, the labyrinthian-like layout of each underworld level is randomly generated each time. This makes for a unique playthrough every time, so no run is exactly identical. Power-ups and boons from other gods will also change up run by run, so in one playthrough you could get an absolutely godly build, while in another you might not be able to hurt an ant. The art style of this game is absolutely gorgeous, and after seeing the trailer for Hades 2, I can tell they haven't disappointed in that regard. Number 4 is a game that I've been waiting for a while. It's called Senua's Saga: Hellblade 2. In the original, you play as this Viking lady named Senua as she fights her way to hell and try and bring back the soul of her dead lover. The game's combat was serviceable but average and lacking in depth, and the puzzles were pretty easy. But what made this game great was their portrayal of Senua's schizophrenia. The entire game, you're subject to visual and auditory hallucinations. Voices that talk to Senua throughout the game. Voices that doubt her or encourage her. It's recommended to play with headphones, so it's as immersive as possible, but wow, it gets intense. I seriously can't wait for the next game. The next game is one I never expected, honestly. It's Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4. If you asked me if this game would ever happen before it was announced, I would say absolutely not, but then again, here we are. We're all lucky enough to be in the universe where there's a new Budokai Tenkaichi game coming out. The last game came out in 2007 and I only had like 3 fully developed brain cells at the time, but I remember playing the absolute shit out of this game. It's pretty much a 3D fighting game set in the Dragon Ball universe. I always loved these games over their 2D counterparts because they just felt so much more realistic to play. Being able to move in 3 dimensions adds a lot of layers to the combat. I don't think I need to explain these games too much. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, you're probably already hyped for this one. Number 2 is... well, it's not a game, okay? It's the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. Elden Ring was the first Souls-like I actually had the patience to play past the second boss, and man, was it worthwhile. Every combat encounter had me on my toes fighting for my life, and when I wasn't getting bullied by Morgoth the Fell Omen, I was enjoying exploring every nook and cranny of the immensely detailed world FromSoft had created. We haven't been shown much of what the DLC will offer, but judging on previous DLC releases for Dark Souls, the new DLC will probably add a ton of content, things to see and bosses to spend a ton of time and in some cases tears to complete. It's been rumored to come out this February, but I don't see it coming out any later than this year at this point. It's been almost 2 years since Elden Ring first dropped, which is kinda crazy to think about. At number 1 is Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 made in Unreal Engine 5. I know it's a remake, so most of the gameplay aspects from the game will be pretty much the same, but I don't care. MGS3 is one of my favorites. If you've never played it, I would say play it right now. It doesn't really matter if you've played MGS1 or 2 first either, cause MGS3 is chronologically the first game in the timeline. I can and have ranted about this story for hours, so I'll save you the time, but just know that it is amazingly complex in the best way. The amount of connections, conspiracies, and twists makes this the most engaging and simultaneously confusing story I've ever played. This entire series defined the stealth action genre as a whole, and I'm glad this game is getting the love it deserves. And that's it. Let me know what games you're excited for, and like and subscribe. I won't waste too much more of your time, so I hope everyone has a great 2024. See ya.